Can fasting help reverse diabetes? Can fasting help with blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, polycystic ovarian syndrome? Yes, it can. And we're going to be spending some time going through fasting, all about fasting. We're going to spend some time talking about preparing for fast, going through a fast, how do you break a fast, and some of the things you need to do to make sure that you are successful in the fasting process. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. In this year, new you. We are talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes. That's right, get off of those medications, improve their metabolic health, and deal with a lot of those other things that may come. If you're new, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And to let you know that we're happy that you are here. If you do have questions, go ahead and put those in the comments because we'd love to answer those. Make sure you do put a Q in front of those questions before you drop them in the comments. And so glad that you're here. As you know how we do, the way we do, we're going to be showing you my monitors, my meters, my reports, and taking a look at what's been going on over the last several days as I've been fasting. So fasting is an amazing tool that allows us to reset, rebuild, if you will, some of the metabolic things that are going on in our bodies. And we've been using it as one of those tools here to reverse diabetes. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that here tonight as we get into the show. I just want to say some shout outs. I see Jennifer out there. Hey, Jennifer. Jennifer said, howdy all. Glad that you are here with us and hanging out. Whatever platform you're on right now, we should be streaming to actually all of our social media platforms, LinkedIn, TikTok, well, not TikTok, Instagram. We are on Facebook, of course, here on YouTube. If you know someone that's out there, let them know that we're here. Send them a link. Say, hey, come on over and let's work on this check-in together. So I have been doing a 72-hour fast, and that's what you know that we've been doing. But over the last couple of weeks, last week and this week, I've done an even more extended fast. Last week we did a 97-hour fast, and actually right now, let's see, what's 97 plus 12? Right, so that's 108. Did I do that math correctly? Anyway, so we've been doing an extended fast, and we shared a lot of reasons why we are doing that. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. But as you know how we do, I've got my monitors, I've got my meters that we'll take a look at. So I've got my meters over here that we'll take a look at what my blood sugars are. I've got my Libre and my Dexcom, and you'll see those on the screen. We'll look at that as well. And then, of course, we'll take a look to see what my reports are, my Dexcom Clarity app, and we'll walk through that together. But before we get there, let's go ahead and let's do a check-in. Talking about, and I usually talk about how I'm doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. And physically, I am right now feeling a little tired. That's because I've been up. I had some things that I had to get ready for this morning. I had a client that I talked to this morning. I had some other things I had to do for my business. And so I've been kind of running. And the last couple of nights, I've actually been up later than I intended. If you remember, a couple of nights ago, I actually did a check-in around 1 o'clock in the morning. Last night, I did a late check-in. And so I'm feeling a little tired in general. Okay, as I started out the week doing well, started the fast on Monday morning about 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, what was I doing up at that time? I don't know. But started the fast then, and so I've been kind of going through. Not feeling lightheaded, not feeling dizzy, not feeling weak, right? Like I said, I'm feeling tired, but not feeling weak. And so that's how I'm feeling physically. Mentally, I'm feeling clear. I'm not cloudy. Often, if I don't do a good job of hydration, don't do a good job of resting, sometimes I will have some cloudy thinking. but right now feeling pretty clear in my thought process. And then emotionally, just so happy to be at the end of the week. We had a good week. We were off on Monday, if you remember. And then on Tuesday, if you've been following us on social media, you saw that I was down at Auburn. We had an award that was given down there. So I got to hang out with some medical students and the faculty there. Got some good information. Came back up, saw patients yesterday or 2 days ago, Wednesday and yesterday. And then today had a great time. So emotionally, actually, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited about a video that I recorded that I'm putting together to air when we at some point coming up. We'll talk about when that's going to come. But that was an exciting video to do. And so you'll hear more about that. So emotionally, I'm actually feeling pretty good. So let's hop over and let's take a look at some blood sugars. So this is my Libre that you see on the screen. So my Libre right now says that my blood sugar is 54. Right? If I look over at my Dexcom, you'll see that it says 61. So 54 for the Libre, 61 for the Dexcom. And let's go ahead and take a look at what my finger sticks are showing. So here's my contour meter, and this one right here is my Keto Mojo. So let's go ahead and get a strip for the contour. Get that in. And then I'm going to move this ketone strip out of the way. Get the strip in for the Keto Mojo for the glucose. And then, of course, we've got to get a finger stick, right? So we've got to get some blood. All right, that's hurt a little bit more than I anticipated. I think I went the wrong spot, but that's okay. All right, so we got a drop of blood there. Got one here, and while that's running, we're going to actually need to get another drop because we'll need another one for the Keto Mojo for the ketones. And so right now, Keto Mojo says blood sugar is 47, 54 for the contour, and then of course, as you see there, my Dexcom is saying 61. So I'm going to go ahead and take the strip out of the Keto Mojo, and so we can get the strip in for the ketone. And we're going to go ahead and get that started. And like I do, I'm going to go ahead and tease you guys again because I'm not going to show you what that is. We'll come back. But if you think you know what my ketones are going to be, go ahead and drop those in, right? So right now, let's see. So 96. And then, so we're about 103 hours at this point in terms of our fasting. So let me know what you think the ketones are going to be. All right. So as we talk about that, we'll come back and we'll deal with that here in a little bit. But all about fasting. So Friday review. So Fridays, we kind of go through the fasting process, do a bit of review to talk about what fasting is and how we can use fasting. And what are some of the components of fasting, right? And as you know, fasting comes in lots of different phases. There are three big phases that I talk about when I talk about fasting. That's the preparing for the fast, and then breaking the fast. Also, let me just mention that I've got some food over here that we're going to take a look at that I'm going to use to break my fast here in a little while, right? So we prepare for the fast. We go through the fast, and during the fast, I usually break it up into three different categories if I'm doing a 72-hour fast. That's the first 24 hours, then 48 hours, and then 72 hours. If you're doing longer fast, then of course, here we are. But those are the general ideas or general phases. And then, of course, breaking the fast at the end. And so preparing for the fast is very, very important. As I mentioned during my check-in, this week I was tired because I had a lot of things going on. I was clear mentally, emotionally, I was doing well. But if you don't prepare for the fast well, you can have difficulty during the fast itself, right? Because the fast takes a lot of energy. And when I say take a lot of energy, the fast, if we're not careful, we can have things that are going on in our world, in our environment, that pushes us off of the fast. I guess let me say it that way. So preparing for the fast means that you are eating a healthy meal or eating healthy meals leading up to the fast. That you're doing meals that are well balanced, that have a lot of nutrients, that have a lot of vitamins and minerals and fiber and all of those good things. So we can't be deficient in our eating and go into a fast and expect to be successful. So you want to make sure that you're having balanced meals as you are leading up to the fast. Okay? You want to make sure that you're well rested. So you should not be staying up all night, 3-4 days before a fast and then go into a fast. Because even though you may be able to make it through the fast, you're going to be so tired, so fatigued that you may have difficulty during the fast, feeling lightheaded, dizzy, and all those things. And when you get ready to do a fast the next time, your brain's going to say, no, 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 no. We didn't like how that felt the last time, okay? So you want to make sure that you are well rested. You want to make sure that you're not having a lot of things that are high in terms of stress go on as you are moving into the fast, right? Because remember, stress, those cortisol levels will cause lots of different hormonal changes in our body, and getting into a fast with all those changes going on may make it difficult to be successful during the fast. You also want to make sure that you are hydrated. You do not want to come into a fast dehydrated, because that also causes some other issues in terms of lightheadedness, dizziness, cloudy thinking, fatigue, and all of those things that we just talked about. So that's the preparing for the fast. You want to make sure that you are doing a good job of preparing for the fast so that you can get into the fast and be successful. Now, as we get into the fast, there are lots of things that go on in the body. The first thing that we notice is during the fast, or those first hours prior to actually initiating the fast, we're coming off of eating, right? So you've just eaten a meal, whenever that was, the last meal, and for the first 6 hours or so, your body is still processing that food, is digesting it, is getting all of those nutrients that are coming out of the food and moving through your GI tract. So those are the first several hours. So a lot of times people will say, oh, I've been fasting. And I say, well, how long have you been fasting? They say, oh, I've been fasting for 3 hours. Well, no, you're not fasting, right? Because your body is still processing the food that you just eat. So physically, the body is getting those things, is breaking them down. Insulin levels are high, glucose levels are high. The body is uptaking the sugar, right, that's coming out of the carbohydrates that's coming out of the food that you just ate. The process, this is the digestive process. This is the absorption process. And those nutrients are now being broken down and being brought into the body. The nutrients, the glucose levels and the nutrients are at their peak because you've just eaten, the body's just broken it down and is just absorbing it. Energy levels are high because you just ate, okay? Of course, depending on what you ate, sometimes people will say, I feel sleepy. And you feel sleepy because the body's diverting some of the sugar or some of the blood from processing other areas, brain, for example, and is shunting it to the GI tract so that you can absorb. Right? And then the early fasting stage, those are those first 6 to 12 hours. Physically, insulin levels are begin decreasing, and glucagon levels are starting to increase. So remember, that's the signal, right? When insulin goes down, glucagon comes out, because insulin is saying, hey, there's not a lot of energy that's coming in, and glucagon says, hey, I've got to go to the liver to break down glycogen so that I can boost those levels of glucose. And that's the process that happens as we are starting to begin moving into the ketosis process, because now we're burning up the glycogen that's in the liver, right? So the process is going, so gluconeogenesis, that's the breaking down of glycogen into glucose, right? This is an active process to maintain blood sugar levels. And as the body's doing that, it's then burning up or using up the glycogen, which is what we want. Energy levels begin to fluctuate during this process, right? This is the first 12 hours because the body is now using up what's readily available in the blood. It's having to go to the liver to begin breaking down the glycogen that's there. And so you may feel some transitioning going on. And people feel that sometimes as that weakness, that lightheadedness that we talked about. In the next phase, right, that 12 to 18 hours, we're transitioning now to using fat. Right, so the body is saying, hey, I'm using up the sugar that's there. I'm using up the glycogen. I've got to now go and find some alternate source for energy. And it's now starting to say, hey, my blood sugar levels are dropping. Insulin is going down. And I'm having to go now and break down fat, turning that into free fatty acids and into glycerol to use. And so we begin seeing ketones coming out now. So the liver starts gluconeogenesis. That's creating glucose from non-carb sources, right? So ketones are low at this point as the body is now beginning to switch over to burning fat. Energy levels may feel like they're dipping, right? Because remember, there's that transition between burning sugar and burning ketones. And if you're doing this for the first time, you're going to actually feel this. But if you've been doing it for a while, then your body becomes keto adapted. So it can jump over from using carbohydrates to using sugar very, very rapidly in the process. And then, y'all, ketosis begins, right? Ketosis begins at this point. And here we begin to see that the glycogen stores are nearing depletion. Right? This leads to increased ketones as the body now is burning, converting fat into ketones. And this adaptation starts to ramp up, and it's clearing damaged cells. So autophagy now is starting to happen. Remember, autophagy is that process of the body going and finding broken, dead, unused cells and recycling those and using them for energy and for rebuilding. And this is the process where we have all of those benefits in terms of repairing cells, pushing back neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and some of those cognitive difficulties that people will have, repairing of nerves, so we get improvement in our neuropathy. Some cancers will respond during this phase, right? So that's autophagy, an amazing process that we can stimulate and that we can use to begin using and begin burning carbohydrates, recycling the body, right? Using those dead tissues to be able to build some of the things that we need. And this also, and we'll talk about a little bit more about it in a minute, we begin to see the immune system begin to ramp up. The brain and muscles use ketones very effectively. So a lot of times people will say during this process, they feel a lot of mental clarity, right? Mental clarity that comes out as the body is going through the autophagy process. And initial stages of mental clarity, there it is, begins as the brain starts to use those ketones. That's an amazing, amazing process. Right. So as we move now, so we go from the ketosis phase, and we're moving now into the fat absorption. This is 24 to 48 hours, or 28 to 30 hours, actually. So glycogen stores are nearing depletion, and the increased ketones are coming out because the body now is switching over, right? So fat absorption, so significant increase in ketones because now we are almost all done with carbohydrates. Glycogen is gone and the body is now in full force looking at those fat cells and saying, come on, I need energy. And where does it get energy from? Those fat cells. Here we begin to see significant weight loss, right? Because everything now is coming from fat, pretty much everything. There are still a few places where you get some sugar because the body breaks fat down into glycerol and free fatty acids. The free fatty acids give us the ketones, and the glycerol gets converted into glucose, right? Glycerol, glycogen, glucose, all those words similar to each other. So there's still some places where we get sugar from in the body, but for the most part, we're using ketones. The whole process of going from carbohydrates to ketones, I liken that to a hybrid car. In a hybrid car, you're burning gas, and you also have the battery. When the gas is done, we don't panic, right? If the battery is working. And it's the same thing here in the body. When the glucose and the glycogen stores go down, we don't panic, we don't worry, because we have ketones. And most people, if we listen to the studies, most people within their body have upwards of almost 100,000 excess calories. That's right, you heard me right. 100,000 in excess calories. Particularly as we talk about people who have metabolic disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and so on and so on and so forth. Okay, so fat absorption. So energy levels stabilize now as the body becomes more efficient at using ketones. Right, that's the fat adaptation. The next phase, y'all, and so we're going to run through, and I want to talk a little bit about the mental component that goes along with the physical. So at 24 hours, right? So 24 hours, we're transitioning to fat metabolism, as we just said. And so a physical state, the liver glycogen stores are gone. The body increases lipolysis. That's the breaking down of fat. And the breakdown of fat stores, and this is being converted into free fatty acids, and that's being converted to ketones, and that's the energy. So some people may begin to feel mental clarity, as we said before, as the brain now is beginning to utilize all those ketones through the breakdown and the conversion of fat. So that's 24 hours. When we look at 25th hour, and we're not going to go through each of these by one, just wanted to kind of give you a sense of what's happening. So mild ketosis is at 24 hours. So the body is used up a lot of the glycogen, and it's switched over to burning fat, and ketones are coming up, and they're beginning to kind of ramp up. As we get later on, we'll see ketones that are much higher. Okay? All right. So that's the first 24, 25 hours of the process of fasting. And the reason I'm pausing here at 24, 25 hours is I've been challenging you to fast at least once a week for 24 hours. And so for 24 hours, that's what's been going on. What is the benefit of fasting? The benefit of fasting is that fasting allows us to do several things. Remember our pillars here on the show in terms of reversing diabetes. Number one, decrease insulin. That's right. That's number one, decrease insulin. Number two is to suppress the appetite. Decrease insulin, suppress the appetite, and then finally decrease glucose. So if you can do that, then diabetes is in the process of getting reversed. Decrease insulin, decrease our appetite, and decrease sugar. Those are the premise. That's the pillar. And during the process of fasting, if you are not eating, if you're not putting anything in that has carbs, as a matter of fact, we're not putting anything in that has any calories, right? If you're not putting anything in, then by virtue of that, your insulin level has to go down because it doesn't have anything to work on. So insulin levels have to go down. And if insulin levels go down, that's the first pillar. Insulin levels are going down because sugar has gone down. Because now we're getting rid of the glycogen that's in the liver. That's the second pillar. When insulin goes down, remember insulin is an appetite stimulant. Yes, it is. And if insulin goes down, then the appetite now is not stimulated. And so that's the third pillar of what we're doing. Okay? So decrease insulin, decrease the appetite or suppress the appetite, and then decrease our sugar. That's how we roll, y'all, here on the show. All right. So let's see. So I do see some folks that have popped in. So let me go ahead and say hello. All right, here we go. Here we go. So Jennifer, we said hi. So Jennifer is asking, what type of numbers should I see on my CGM during these stages for best results? Jennifer, I'm going to hold on to that question. I'm going to come back to it here in just a little while. Teresa says, hello, Dr. Woode, Jennifer, and everyone. Hey, 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 glad that you are here, Teresa. Oh, she says, hey, you're answering this. All right, yeah, I'll come back. I'll do a little bit more specific answer to your question there, Jennifer. And then Jennifer, of course, saying, hey, Teresa. I do see some folks over on Instagram. See Jennifer is over there as well. I see Denise. I see Alvarez. Hey, hey, hey. Alvarez says, hey, good day. How are you doing? And then I do see Paul over there as well. So thank you guys for coming through. All right. So that's the process of fasting. That's the process of fasting. And then remember 3 phrases: start the fast, preparing for it, get through the fast, however that is. During the fast, the same things that we were doing for preparing. We want to make sure that we're hydrated. Last night, if you were on, we did a show about hydration. Well, we didn't do a show on hydration. We did a show that talked about some of the things I was using for hydration. And you'll recall that I was using 2 products, and one of them, it was a product with electrolytes. One of them, as I was reading through the process, I was using my Yuka app, noticed that it had some calories in it. It says zero carbs or 0 sugar, but it had calories. And so that one I can no longer use during my fast. So go back and watch that show from last night. Okay, so my point in that show actually last night was to say, hey, even as you're looking at things that sound like they're healthy, you also have to be careful with them as well. Okay, all right, and then so preparing for the fast, getting through the fast. So make sure you're hydrated. Make sure you're getting good rest. Make sure that during the fast you're not doing a lot of things that are stressful. And then, right, the final phase of that is, of course, we've got to break the fast. And so let me do something here really quickly. All right, so we got to break the fast. And you see me kind of scrolling through because I want to get to, we're going to skip all of this stuff. We'll come back. We'll do that at another time. Here we go. I'm going to get to breaking the fast. Oh, I think I went a little too far. No, come back. All right. So breaking the fast. So right over here, and I'm going to pull it over so that you can actually see. All right, so I've got a salad that I made, that was it, yesterday at work. And then I've got some cheese, some different types of cheese. This is some Gouda, right? Smoked Gouda cheese. And I like cheese, so there it is. So I've got some Gouda, so that's what I'm using today to break my fast. So you guys will get to see me eat that here in just a little while. So in the meantime, let's hop over and let's take a look at what my monitor or my report is saying. And let's go ahead and let's drop this screen. And you'll see there that over the last 14 days, my average blood sugar has been 91. If I do the 90-day average, it's 105 with an estimated A1C, which is indicated by the glucose management indicator. That says that my blood sugar is going to be, my A1C would be around 5.8. Okay, let's take a look at our graph. And Jennifer, I'm going to hopefully answer a little bit of your questions as I get through this. So I started my fast on Monday morning right around 3 o'clock, so right in here. Okay, I don't know what I was doing up on Monday morning at that time, but that's when I started it. And so 24 hours later, right, I'm in the 70s. So Jennifer, if I'm fasting, okay, so So I started fasting here, or I stopped eating. I shouldn't say fasting, because remember, the first 6 hours we're absorbing, right? So we went from about 106, and we kind of stayed there, right? We popped up a little bit from the food that we probably ate a little bit before that. And so look at my blood sugars, right? So even within that period of time, I'm starting to see that those blood sugars are dropping, right? So we're still in that 6 hours. So 3 to 9 would be the first 6 hours. And then 12, right? And then over the course of that 24-hour period, notice that my blood sugar starts dropping. So at about 12 to 16, 18 hours, we started going from blood sugars of 100s, and we started dropping down into the 90s, and then into the 80s. And then by, let's see, so here we are at 6 o'clock. So that's 12 plus 3, right? So about 15 hours later, I'm down into the 70s. Look at that, 70s and 60s. And then for the rest of the time, I'm kind of hovering 70s, 60s, so that at 24 hours, which is right here, I've gone from, 24 hours before being in the 100s to at 24 hours, which is what we're saying, hey, work your way up to fast at least 24 hours, then we're down into the 70s. So Jennifer, I hope that gives you kind of a little timeline indication of where blood sugar should be. And so, of course, as we monitor further, right, because I didn't stop at 24 hours, 48 hours later, I'm in the 70s, right? And so look at that. So people would say, hey, how come the blood sugars went down and went back up? Well, my body is, remember the glycerol, right? So some of that could be there. Remember, toothpaste can also cause blood sugars to spike. So that's 24 hours. And then 48 hours, I'm in the 80s. And then 72 hours, right? So I'm in the 60s. And then we don't know what is going to be if I were to go further. But I'm going to break my fast here just in a little while because I'm getting ready to eat something. Okay? Awesome. All right. So let's hop back over here. So hopefully, Jennifer, that answers your question about what blood sugars should be. All right. And what do you guys think my ketones are going to be? Huh? What do you think my ketones are going to be? Because I've been now over, I'm over 100 hours in terms of fasting. Over 100 hours. So what do you think ketones are going to be? Okay. All right. So that was preparing for the fast. That was the fast itself. What do we expect? What's happening there? And then, of course, breaking the fast is just as important as how we prepare for the fast and how we go through the fast. So breaking the fast, how do we break the fast? Well, some things you want to make sure you're monitoring blood sugars. Now, I am proposing and I am recommending for all of my clients, all my patients who are in this process, that they use a continuous glucose monitor. Now, for a lot of people, if you're not diabetic, then glucose monitors currently, you have to have a prescription, right, currently. And some insurance companies don't cover it if you're not diabetic. This summer, they're coming out with a over-the-counter version of one of the glucose monitors so that you can get it without having a prescription. You basically pay out of pocket like you would do if you just went to the grocery store and got a glucose meter, okay? So it's important. Why is that important to monitor? It's important, particularly if you're diabetic, it's important, one. Number two, if you're not diabetic, we want to know how foods are affecting your body, how foods are affecting your blood sugar, how foods or lack of eating, right, abstaining, the fasting process, how is that changing my metabolic disease? How is it changing my body? And one of the best ways of knowing that is to look at blood sugars, because you begin to see those blood sugars go down. I'm also suggesting that if you are interested in seeing what ketones are doing, where the ketones are, particularly if you're doing shorter fast. Now, if you're doing an extended fast, I mean, once you get to that 24-hour and you get beyond that, you're going to be in ketosis. Okay? But if you want to maintain ketosis, if you're interested in then transitioning into a ketogenic diet, get a monitor that will also tell you about ketones. Okay? So that's kind of a general thought, and I thought this would be a good place to do that. You want to make sure that you are having good portion control. We're talking about breaking the fast, right? So make sure you're monitoring and make sure you're having good portion control, because often we get so in our head about the things that we have not eaten. I'll tell you, I do this, right? Let me come back over here so we can talk. So if I'm not careful, I begin anticipating the things that I didn't eat. One of the things I used to do when I first started fasting, as we went through the week, sometimes we'll have lunch at the office, a pharmaceutical rep will bring lunch. We'll have a meeting where we'll have lunch. I'll go down to the cafeteria. And when I first started fasting, what I was doing is all the lunches, all the things that they brought in, I would save them up and put them in the refrigerator. Right? So Monday's lunch would be in there. Tuesday's lunch will be in there. Wednesday's lunch will be in there. And so I brought all that stuff home and put it in the refrigerator. And the idea, and I said to myself, hey, I'm not going to eat all of that. Well, if I'm not going to eat all of it, why am I bringing it? Right? Because remember, access, habits, emotions, access, taste. So access is one of my triggers, right? So if it's there, guess what? The likelihood is I'm going to go try to eat a lot of it. So portion control. So don't anticipate the meal, y'all. Plan for it, plan for breaking the meal, but don't say, okay, man, when I start eating, I'm going to have all this stuff, because that sets you up for a lot of badness, right? So portion sizes, portion control, and I see. Let me come back here because I see some stuff coming through. Let's see. Let's do some comments. So Teresa says yum yum salad and Gouda. Oh yes, Gouda. Gouda is nice and mild, right? I usually have sharp. I have sharp and I have Parmesan. I'll get a block of Parmesan and just whittle away on it, right? And then Gouda, right? So a friend of mine, he's like, hey, you got to try Gouda. So I tried Gouda. I'm like, this is good. So I have some Gouda cheese right here. Jennifer said, thank you. I've been going low and was worried. I regularly drop into the upper 60s, but feel fine. Yeah, and so Jennifer, if that's during the fasting process, for sure, these are very good indications of adjusting medication if you're still on medication. And all of you who are out there during the fasting process, as those blood sugars are going down, you want to make sure that you are adjusting medication. If you're not doing that, then the medication doesn't know that your blood sugar is low, and it still continues to drive the blood sugar down, and you begin to feel lightheaded, dizzy, and so forth, all right? So make sure you're checking with your healthcare provider and your healthcare team to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. What do I need to do in terms of medication? All right. So you say, I regularly drop into the upper 60s, and I feel fine. Yes, and as the body switches over to burning ketones, it produces energy, and so there's not really a big need for sugar. Right, so you should feel fine. So Teresa says she thinks that my ketones are going to be 2.7. So we'll come back and look at that here in just a minute. And then Teresa was laughing. She says, sounds just like me on the lunches. Oh yeah, because I was building it up, y'all. I'm gonna have, and particularly so in the cafeteria, you can predict what they have on different days. So they'll have pot roast, they'll have fried chicken, they'll have. There's a Mexican day. There's a where they have Crispitos, so burritos that are fried, and they've got the what do you call it with the, they make it, it has like corn and chopped up bell peppers and seasonings and onions, and I forgot, it's slipping off my mind right now. Teresa said, I messed up doing the last 2 24-hour fast. I didn't adjust my medicine. Yeah, so very important, because remember, the medicine doesn't know that your blood sugars are low, and it'll keep working to bring those blood sugars further. All right, so monitor the blood sugars, right? So that was the first one. Portion control, eat slowly. That goes back to portion control as well. Because a lot of times we're like, oh, let me gotta put all this stuff down. And I'm gonna try to eat slowly when I start eating here in just a minute. So you guys are gonna have to help me pace myself. Because once I get that first bite, yeah, it's coming in, right? And then avoid sugary processed foods. Once your blood sugars spike, insulin has to come out. When insulin comes out, appetite gets stimulated, right? So avoid all those sugary, highly processed foods. Okay? All right. Okay, so that's kind of tips. Hydration, make sure you're hydrated. All right, and here you'll see some things like coconut water, make sure it's unsweetened, herbal tea, and water. Those are things you want to make sure that you're hydrated. And you may even at that time have to use some electrolyte supplements. Right, so hydration, very important. Protein. Protein is our friend. Protein is our friend. As we are moving into the post-fasting phase, if we're eating proteins will help us stay full, and proteins won't spike our blood sugars like those processed foods will. Okay? Healthy fats. You want to make sure you're having some healthy fats. Avocados, nuts. For me, I can't do it. I've tried, but they stimulate my appetite. And once I have that first one, it's all downhill from there. Broths are good. I have not done broths over the last couple of weeks because I've been doing some different things. And for different reasons. Not that the broth is not good, but I love broth. I was using it for a while. The one that I have actually has some carbs in it because it's the broth mix, and so I haven't gone back to the grocery store yet to get new ones. So that's really the reason that I've not used broth. And I've been using these other things, salads and so forth. If you are vegetarian, if you're vegan, you don't have to use bone broth. You can use vegetable broth. And then some consideration. When breaking a fast, choose foods that help maintain stable blood glucose levels while offering nutritional value and are gentle on the digestive system, right? And so, yeah, low glycemic index, foods, lean protein, healthy fats, and then, of course, make sure that you are remaining hydrated. All right, so first, let's go ahead and let's see what my ketones are. Let's move the food out of the way. Get my ketone, get my meter back, and then let's go ahead and let's pull up my Keto Mojo. And we'll see what that pulls up right there in just a minute. You'll see it syncing in just a while. So my ketones last night, as you see there at the bottom, they were 3.7. Oh, or was that today? Did it sync already? Okay, let me resync it to make sure we have the right number. But I think that may have been correct. Oh, okay, yeah, 47. And look at that, Teresa, 4.2. 4.2 is what my ketones are. Remember, when we talk about ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 is considered therapeutic ketosis. If we look at my graph, you see as my blood sugars have gone down, then which is the tan line, my ketones have gone up, which is the turquoise line. And remember, insulin and ketones can't exist together. Insulin and ketones can't exist together. So when insulin goes down, ketones go up. And as insulin comes up, when we're eating, because carbohydrates are there, then that's the signal that ketones have to go away. Okay? All right, so that's that. And so let me do this, y'all. I'm going to... let's see. Let's grab this one. So I'm going to start by having a piece of this Gouda. I know I got a paper plate, but that's okay. So look at that. Yep. That's so good. So you're seeing here for the first time in, somebody calculate that for me. So 96 plus 12 is 108 plus 3. So 116 hours. First bite. Oh, one of the things that I didn't do is we didn't take a look at my weight. Let's see, where is that? So I have not been 170 any pounds in 20, 25 years maybe, or more. Oh, this is so good. Delicious. Remember what I said before, or as I've said before, when we're talking about New Year, New You model, it improves diabetes. It reverses diabetes, but it helps so many more things. Just because you're not diabetic doesn't mean that this doesn't work. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, polycystic ovarian syndrome, metabolic syndrome, obesity, all of those get improved. New Year, New You. I know I'm talking to you, but I'm thinking about this cheese, y'all. Oh yeah, this is So all those metabolic diseases, they respond just like diabetes. So decreasing insulin in your body. So when I say decreasing insulin, often people think I'm talking about taking insulin from the outside. Your body produces insulin, and it produces insulin in response to spikes in blood sugar. So if you're spiking the blood sugar and your body has to produce more and more and more insulin, that's where the whole idea of insulin resistance comes from. And the higher the insulin goes, the more your appetite is stimulated, the more weight you put on, the more insulin resistant you become. And remember, insulin, well, let me give you an example of things that happen with insulin. So when I was a kid, I hope my mom's not watching. There's 6 of us. Kids. We used to live in an apartment. There were 4 of us at the time. And my mom would go to work and she said, clean up the house. And we would be in the house, we watch TV, we're playing, we're not cleaning, right? And we lived on the 3rd floor. So my mom would come and for some reason, she didn't take a key. She'd ring the bell. And one of us would look out and see her down with the bell. We're like, we're coming. And while one person went downstairs, the rest of us would be running around cleaning up the house. And when my mom showed up, the house was spotless. You could eat off the floor. But if she opened up the closet or looked under the bed, that's where all the stuff was, right? So we cleaned the outside, but all the stuff was hidden away other places. That's what insulin does. Insulin cleans the blood from the sugar. So the blood sugars go down, but the sugar has to go somewhere. And where does it go? Well, the body stuffs it into the fat cells, stuffs it into the liver, stuffs it into the arteries, stuffs it into the muscles. So even though the blood sugar itself is good, it's going somewhere. So decreasing insulin, pillar number 1. Decreasing sugar, pillar number 2. Because when you eat things that are high carb, y'all, when you eat those, the insulin has to spike. The high carbs, high refined food cause inflammation. And inflammation causes high blood sugar or causes malfunctions in blood sugar. So number 2, suppress sugar. And then number three, once we've cut back on the insulin, once we have dealt with the sugar, once we have learned what our triggers are in terms of the heat model, then our appetite is suppressed. And we now have control over a lot of the things that we eat. I was talking to somebody just this morning and was saying that it's not a food problem. It's not a food problem. It's an emotional problem. It's a scheduling problem. It's a memory problem. So dealing with those other issues also fixes blood sugars and also fixes our disease. Okay? All right. Still eating. All right. So let's see. Teresa says, she says I can't guess right. I think that was for the ketones. And then Teresa says, claps. Oh, thank you, Teresa, on the weight. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then she says, when I changed blood sugar meds from glipizide to Jardiance, I also kept me on glipizide, but at a lower dose. Is that right? Okay, so good question. So what she's saying is she was on glipizide, but they added Jardiance to her regimen, and they decreased the glipizide. So if you remember, when we started the year, I did 2 shows. One show was on medications we should get off of, and then the other show was medications we should think about getting on. Now let's go through the pillars. Decreasing insulin. Any medication that stimulates insulin is a medication we want to get off of. So whether we're taking insulin or whether the medication itself is producing the insulin. Glipizide is one of those. So in order of medications that I take patients off, insulin is number 1. The sulfonylureas like glipizide, glyburide, glimepiride, those are number 2 in the list. Now, as we are going through the process of transitioning from medication, one of the medications I recommend that people get on, right, as a transition is Jardiance, because all Jardiance does is it gets rid of sugar. That's the second pillar, right? Get rid of the glipizide, pillar number 1, get on Jardiance, pillar number 2, right? So those are the 2 things. So as you're transitioning though, you may find yourself on glipizide, for example, Teresa, at a lower dose. Once the blood sugars are better, then we can get rid of the glipizide, and now we're just on the Jardiance. And then the question then is, how do we transition off of the Jardiance? And that's usually the process that I go through. Now, some people, and then you can do lots of different ways. Some doctors will just actually stop the glipizide. Depends on how people's blood sugars are and how, how things are looking. That's why it's so important to have the monitor. Okay. Awesome. All right. So that's the Gouda cheese. All the Gouda cheese is now gone. And now let's take a look at this salad. Look at that. And on the salad, I have, typical salad is like a kind of a garden salad, but I also have cheese on there. I've got some Parmesan cheese on there. There's some chicken. So I have turkey, actually. So I have some smoked turkey in the refrigerator. So I just chopped it up and put it on top. And some onions, some red onions. And let's see what that tastes like. I bet you it's going to taste so good. Should I eat it or should I go get some more Gouda? Y'all. This is good. And we'll see what the blood sugars are. Actually, let me see if there was any change from when I ate the Gouda. It was 54 before, it's now 56. Because remember, cheese also has some carbs in it, right? Don't forget that. I think I'm not going to eat the tomatoes that are in here. So I'm going to avoid the tomatoes. Because I'm sure those are going to spike my blood sugars more than the rest of the stuff that's in there. All right. But that tastes good. All right. So let's talk about a platform. First, unlimited. You have unlimited potential. You have unlimited ability to improve your health. You have unlimited ability to be successful right at your fingertips. Education, empowerment, and encouragement. Unlimited. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past. It doesn't matter what you've tried in the past. It doesn't matter what people have told you in the past. I want you to know that within your grasp is the ability to reverse your diabetes, to improve your metabolic health in all aspects. Even if you've had some significant complications in your disease process, in your health, you can still improve. It is never too late to prevent damage and to halt damage. Unlimited ability. And that's our new thrust, right? New year, new you. We're converting, we're creating a new us. And as part of that, we have to switch, we have to change our thinking. And I want you to begin thinking unlimited. Because you have the ability, you have the power. Here on the channel, we educate, we empower, and we encourage people, you, to take charge of your health and your life, right? We educate with the shows, the podcasts, the blogs that we do. We empower with the tools that we learn: fasting, the HEAT model, emotional intelligence, how to create a 7-day menu, how to think about medication. What medication should I be on? What medication should I be off? Figuring out my why. All those are tools that we're using in the process of reversing our diabetes. And then encouragement. Encouragement comes from the community that you are part of. The community is good. The community is strong as you come and you participate in the community. That's why I love the folks that are in our community, because you help to support it, you help to support me, and you bring strength and you bring encouragement to the group. So we educate, we empower, and we encourage. The things that can derail us are things that are in the HEAT model. The HEAT model says that we eat because of habits, emotions, access, and taste. We have habits, things that we've created. We do things we eat at certain times, not because we're hungry, but because it's that time. Oh, we normally eat at this time. Oh, we sit down to watch a movie, so we're gonna have some popcorn. Oh, friend comes over, so we're gonna sit and we're gonna eat. Oh, let's go hang out. We're gonna go to Panera. We're gonna go to one of these other places and we're gonna eat. Not because we're hungry, but just because of the habit that we formed. We eat because of emotions. Happy, sad, frustrated, angry, lonely, tired, all of those things, bored. Emotions will push through your decision. Emotions will push through medication. I don't know how many people that I have that are on Mounjaro or Ozempic or some other medication that's supposed to suppress the appetite. And they say it's not suppressing the appetite. And I say it's not a medication problem. It's an emotion problem. It's a habit problem. So emotions will push through that. And then we eat because of access, right? I don't have any cashews. I don't have any almonds in the house. Peanuts, and I had them, and I had to give them to my wife. She hid them somewhere. Eat because of access. And then we eat because of taste. We're never chasing food. We're always chasing what the food does for us. It calms us. It helps us with the stress. It helps us with the fatigue. It brings us back to a place that we remember where it was good. We had a good feeling. That's what food does. We eat because of taste. So the heat model says we eat because of habits, emotions, access, and taste. And then our call to action is this. 1, join the challenges. Don't just let the challenges be things that you hear about, that you see, that you listen to, but you want to make sure that the challenges are things that you are doing on a regular basis. Okay? Things that you're doing on a regular basis, that you are not just letting this stuff stay on the shelf. So join us in the challenges. When you come here, tell your story, share your story. Because when we hear your successes, we know that it is possible. When we hear your struggles and places you're having challenges, we know that we're not alone. And then share this with someone else. Invite them. Invite someone to the show. Send them a link. Let them know what's going on. There are right now over 1 billion, that's billion with a B, people on the planet that have diabetes or pre-diabetes. Not to mention the ones that have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, they've had a stroke, they've had a heart attack, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and obesity, and who are struggling with weight. You can be the voice for change in your community, in your environment, in your home, on your job. So invite someone to the show. All right. And let's see. Teresa says, why not the tomatoes? Can you explain? Oh, okay. Why not the tomatoes? So tomatoes, even though they're healthy, so healthy does not mean good for blood sugar. So if I'm trying to maintain as much ketosis as possible, then I want to eat things that are not going to cause my blood sugars to spike. Now, this is actually a great question, Teresa, and great place to explain something. So I want you to take a look at this salad. Okay? And let's take the dressing off of this, because that's ranch dressing. Let's say we didn't have any ranch dressing on there. Everything in that salad will cause my blood sugar to go up just a little bit. The lettuce, the tomatoes, the cucumbers, the cheese. Well, aside from the turkey, right? The cheese, what else is in there? The onions. So all of that will cause my blood sugar to go up just a little bit. All by themselves, not a big issue. But look at the salad, right? So if I get maybe a spike of 2 in my blood sugar because of the cheese, I get a spike of 3 or 4 because of the lettuce, a spike of 3 or 4 because of the tomatoes, spike of 3 or 4 because of the onions. Notice what's happening, right? Before long, right? My blood sugar has spiked up 20, 30 points by eating the salad. So even though there's nothing wrong with the tomatoes, if I'm going to eat this salad, as I was eating, I was like, I'm going to get ready to eat all of this. I decided, hey, you know what? I have enough in the salad right now to be full without eating the tomatoes, and I'm not going to miss them. So that's the reason. Not that there's anything wrong with tomatoes, and that's just my meter telling me that my blood sugar is low. So there's nothing wrong with tomatoes, but that's one of the reasons that I do that. Teresa said, I have over 50 tomato plants in my garden. Yeah, tomatoes are good. So it's not uncommon when we had tomatoes, and I didn't plant any this year, for me to go out there and grab a couple of tomatoes and slice them, put some salt and pepper on it and a little bit of lemon juice, and just eat them just like that. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with tomatoes. I just, at this moment, as I'm eating this salad, which is a huge salad, by the way, decided that I was going to not have them right now. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to have them later. All right. All right. So that's it, y'all. Always very happy to be here with you. Happy to hang out. As I always say, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. And here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health in your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the show 7 p.m. Central on Monday. Bye-bye, everybody.